The Break Beach Bar, in conjunction with Tell Staffing and HR, bring you Play Harder Radio, the Gulf Coast premier sports and BS talk show. Things that matter in the world of sports, and things that don't matter to anyone. It's just Vaj's opinion. Where the F-bomb is allowed, but frowned upon. This is Play Harder Radio. And now, your hosts, Chad Colquitt and James Grant.
All right. Welcome back to another week of Play Harder Radio. In the studio still, since the bridge is down and we still aren't back out to the Break Beach Bar, as was mentioned in that promo. How's everybody doing tonight? Good. Todd, how you doing?
I'm good.
Do we have any viewers yet?
Woo! Yeah, there's some.
Woo, we got a couple. Right on. I'm going to try and pay attention to the, my co-host over here is the Second Amendment flag. He doesn't have much to say. I mean, well, he has a lot to say, but that doesn't need to be said. But that's my weekly co-host recently.
So beautiful.
We're going to get a little more patriotic tonight than just my co-host with Mike Miller from Warriors for Ranchers out of Texas. He is a rancher in Texas, Air Force, United States Air Force, retired United States Air Force veteran that started a foundation. He has a ranch in Texas on the border, and he's going to talk about his experiences with dealing with the cartels. And we're going to talk about, I mean, the ranches have been infiltrated by the cartels, and it is truly crisis level, which, I mean, over the top crisis. And he started a foundation, Warriors for Ranchers, to help ranchers that are in crisis mode from everything that's going on down there. And we're going to talk to him in about 8 minutes, I would guess. I'm going to try and pay attention to the chat stream tonight so I can answer whatever anybody might have to say. Feel free to chime in and ask some questions, or you can go to in the header of the feed tonight. The Zoom link is mentioned or is there. If you want to zoom in and ask Mike or I some questions, feel free to do that. So
just an FYI, Mike is actually asking to be admitted already.
Sure, he knows when he's coming on.
Okay, so do you want me to just...
Sure, whatever, however. He knows we're going to be about 8:10. So he's just being on time, being proactive,
okay,
as I would expect from a retired United States Air Force veteran. So let's get into it a little bit, huh? You got LeBron ready?
I do.
Let's show. So, what do you have ready first?
I have the.
Can you do the picture first, or you already got the video going?
No, whichever one. You just tell me which one.
Let's do the picture first. Pray for LeBron picture.
Okay. There we go. We have it up. Yeah.
Old Bron continually gives me the opportunity to bash him. I mean, a week just hardly can't go by where he just doesn't give you an opportunity to bash him.
Was that on his Twitter?
He's such a clown. What?
Was that on his Twitter?
No, he didn't even have anything to do with this. This was Barstool Sports. Did you put the picture up?
Yeah, it's up there. Yeah.
Do I see it up there, the feed at all?
You won't see it there, but you'll see it on your phone if you're looking.
Oh, yeah, there it is. There's LeBron on the ground. Barstool Sports posted this on Facebook. Pray for LeBron. He's such a clown, such a flopping fake clown. Show the video of what actually happened.
Okay, hold on just a second here.
He's just unbelievable. Supposedly, you know, the self-proclaimed greatest of all time. Here we go.
Pass to Caruso, back to James, and he's fouled. Draymond Green would not let him get a layup. And James goes down, holding his head. The officials discussing.
So he doesn't, he goes down. He does not get poked in the eye if you look at the close-up, and his head does not hit the floor if you look at the close-up.
You can watch that up there. What's live.
So let's look at one more.
That's going to be a flagrant.
Let's look at one more. Here it comes. Watch.
It will be.
Fingers don't go to the eyes.
Steve Javy get his
Head
thoughts.
does not hit the floor.
All right, Steve,
Okay,
your thoughts on Draymond Green and that foul? Is that a
you can
flagrant?
pause that. This guy is just the ultimate flopper. I'm so sick of him. Even more sick of listening to his political takes. That's why I like to bash. He's just a clown. So anyway, I found a play earlier in the game, if you can bring that one up, where he was flopping as well.
Are we talking about the animation?
Yeah. Yeah, there he is. That was earlier in the game. And then if we can go to the next one where he was, where they have at team, they practice at, they practice flopping at team practices as well, if you can pull that one up.
It's up.
I love it. And then it turns out that he has an off-season gig with a minor league baseball team. If you can bring up him, working this in the summer. This was last summer, I believe, LeBron James. He even flops as a mascot.
That's great.
I'm so sick of him. Andy's a political moron. But anyway, enough of the negative. Before we get to Mike, and Mike's going to comment a little bit, I would guess, on the Stanley Cup playoffs because he does have a favorite team, which I'm going to mention in this little rehash of what's going on in the playoffs right now. Did everybody see? I wish I should have brought that up. That's the video I should have brought up. Todd, did you see? You probably did not. The Carolina Hurricanes. I got video of their first game of the Stanley Cup playoffs. Sold out, packed to the rafters, maskless glory.
Oh, that's awesome.
It was awesome. It was awesome. Super spreader event. It was beautiful. And the Hurricanes are up 2-0 in the playoffs along with the Tampa Bay Lightning. They're taking care of business, defending champion Lightning. The President's Trophy winner, the Colorado Avalanche, are working over the St. Louis Blues. They're up 2-0. They've scored 10 goals in 2 games. You know, they won the Avs won the President's Trophy this year. 6 out of the last 7 President's Trophy winners have, the President's Trophy goes to the team with the best record.
Well, just so you know, while you're talking, I'm going to go ahead and admit Mike and
Sure.
frame him up.
Sure. Well, yeah, get it ready.
Yeah.
I would hope you'd have it ready.
Well, he's connecting audio last year now.
The President's Trophy goes to the team with the best record in the NHL each season. They've had it since, I think, 85, 86. The Edmonton Oilers won the first one. 6 of the last 7 President's Trophy winners have have not made it past the second round.
Hey, Mike, if you can hear me.
The
if you
I
just
can hear you.
Unmute your mic.
The 2018-2019 Lightning, with the highest number of points since the 95-96, Mike's 95-96 Red Wings, were the last, went out in the first round. The last President's Trophy team to win the Cup was, the Stanley Cup was my Chicago Blackhawks, 2012, 2013.
Good deal.
The Caps are down 2-1 to the Bruins. Game 4's in Boston. They're in a little bit of trouble. The Islanders stole one in Pittsburgh, which I did not expect. We're going to see what's going on there. We're just getting started in the first round, so there's a long ways to go. And the Knights, the Las Vegas Knights, which actually had the most wins in the league, but they tied with points with 82 with the Avalanche. I think they only played 54 games this year. And the Avs won they're the favorites, the odds-on favorite in Vegas to win the Cup, and they won the tiebreaker. So that's how that went down. But, yeah, the playoffs are on. We'll talk more about them this week. But I wanted to get a little bit more patriotic this week because I was introduced to Mike earlier in the week and wanted to get him on the show and talk, because I'm passionate about what's going on with these guys, with these ranchers. And I'm not as passionate about it as Mike is. You're going to find out what passion's about when he gets on here. Let's just let him in.
Yeah, he's up. I can bring him up anytime you.
All right, let's put him up there. Mike, how are you?
I'm doing great. How you doing, buddy?
I am doing great. Your wife did an amazing job setting you up because we have a crystal clear connection.
Perfect. Well, you know how women are in your life. They tend to put us in check, but when it comes to getting things done, behind every good man is an amazing woman.
That is true. That is true. That is a fact. Where would
How's
we
that
be?
Right there? That good video for you there?
Oh yeah, you look great.
Perfect. Whoop. I'm trying to get this little tripod to stay.
Hey,
there we go.
Nice hat.
Hey, man, I like yours too. So I'm going to plug two people. So I know that Annie's probably watching and Jess are watching, and thank God for them because, well, one, they put me and you in these hats, and two, they connected us.
They connected us. That's right.
They did. Thank you, Annie. I appreciate you, sweetheart.
And yeah, so 1776 Forever Free is Cordy Williams. So you can check them out. We'll give them a little plug. 1776 Forever Free. Go check them out and what they're about. Anybody listening out there, that is another great organization that is looking to, if you will, help us take America back.
That's right.
So
Gotta do that.
Hey, one thing I wanted to bring up with you being in Texas, it was just on the news that despite the all the bashing of your governor's the way he was handling COVID, there's been 0 deaths recently to COVID in Texas.
You're right. And you know what? We're not wearing these things. That's a little bit patriotic, though, if I was going to wear that. But, we don't wear them.
Right. You know what? I just love that it's coming out that way. There is a lot of intellectual cowardice going on that people will ignore the obvious here. Yeah, there you go. Yep. You just can't, it's a beautiful mask, but I hate wearing them.
Yep. You gotta tell you, the mask became like a big business for people here in Texas. The little ladies that could sew, I mean, bless their hearts, they were out there making masks for everybody. And kids don't like wearing them, so they made them for every superhero and every sport team. You're a sports guy, so I'm sure they had a team for you.
Yeah, I never looked for it, though, so I've been kind of obstinate about wearing one since the beginning.
Good for you.
And for a long, long time, I've been going into stores and everything without one, and I just own it that I'm not going to wear one, and and that's how I do it. And
overly sized. The virus is real. We both know that. There's people that died from it. But the fear behind it, and Dr. Fauci saying you need to put, as many masks on your face to suffocate yourself while you're shopping, that's a little overkill, wouldn't you say?
I believe it is. I believe it is. It's ridiculous. It's
behind it.
Yeah, it's I think it's all coming to light now, So we're figuring out that we've been played to whatever degree, and I don't want to get all into it, but did you hear me pimp your Detroit Red Wings there a little bit?
I missed out on that part because I was in the backside. So, yeah, my military buddy. If you guys want to hear that story,
Yeah.
we'll do a little sports. We'll do a little sports, and then we'll get into the meat.
Yes.
But I have a buddy in the military, and he got a room right next to me, and he said, "Man," he goes, "Well, now that we're friends, I can promise you before I leave, you'll be a Red Wings fan." And so I was a Red Wings fan back in the day when Osgood was goalie, and I sat there. I wore the shirts. I screamed. It was a good memory. Still today.
Yeah, that was in the mid '90s. You joined the Air Force in what, 95?
95. Yes,
Yeah,
sir.
so right when your buddy was telling you you're going to be that was in Detroit was in their prime then.
Yep. And this guy I'm talking about, he played for the SaberCats in Seattle, which they were a semi-pro team.
Nice.
And he was goalie for them. So I've seen many fights on the ring there in that place. Love the sport of hockey. I haven't stopped watching it.
You know what's funny? We've kind of got a hockey. Pro hockey is really the only pro sport we really follow too much on here, other than bashing LeBron. You'll have to rewatch that if you didn't see it. My LeBron bashing, but we've kind of got a hockey vibe on here. My nephew plays hockey, and he comes on here. My friend Dan Begley up in Pennsylvania, Williamsport, Pennsylvania, played semi-pro hockey. His dad played in the league. We had the 25-year voice of the Michigan Wolverines hockey team on the show one night. So we got a little hockey vibe going on here.
Nice. Well, now we got a Texas vibe going on.
Yes, we do. Yes, we do. Now, Mike, as he mentioned, Annie Garrett hooked me up with Mike, and I was off by one digit, I think, the first time I was trying to get a hold of you. I had a 5 as the 5096, something like that, or whatever. I had 50 instead of 60. But
There you go.
Anyway, we hooked up last night. And we talked for a little bit, and his schedule was such that he could make it on tonight. He lives on the border in Texas. You'll have to tell me exactly where here in a second. Sure. But he has experienced, we're all hearing about the crisis on the border, and some of you think it is, or some of you think it isn't actually there, or whatever. Well, Mike has lived it himself personally. And you turned me on, I watched Cartel Land, a bunch of it about 3/4 of it last night after you and I talked.
You can say his name. He gave me permission.
So, Tim Foley.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And you're friends with Tim.
I am.
Yeah.
So the documentary made after him, and after he heard what was happening, a mutual friend of ours, which I'll call my source, got a hold of Tim and said, "You need to talk to Mike." And so just a normal everyday dad and rancher and Texan and a man that loves America and has fought for this country. I proudly show my flag in my office, as you can see there. Every time I walk in this office, I remember what our founding fathers have done for this country.
That's awesome.
Tim, he's border patrol recon in Arizona. And he's dedicated his life to basically stopping this passage that's coming through. He does his very best, and he's dealt with the cartels and all those things. That was his story. But to get a phone call from somebody that's a legend like that, I have to say it was very humbling.
Right. He's not the only legend that you have got a phone call from, I don't think.
The other one I told you about wasn't a legend. He's a legend, but it wasn't a phone call. I actually sat and had dinner with him.
Right on.
So, probably heard of the movie Contraland. And if you haven't seen Contraland, I highly recommend you guys see it, because right now we're hearing a lot about children and sex trafficking and the things that are going on. And I am honored to say the name Craig Sawman Sawyer, SEAL Team 6. And I'm going to tell you something. His story is absolutely amazing. The person that he is absolutely amazing. American, as I'm trying to say. I'm looking at the flag up here. It is to know that we have a man in SEAL team that's dedicating his life to fighting sex trafficking, I'm honored to call him a friend.
That is amazing. And I will,
You know,
Contraland is next on my list.
you bet. You know what's really cool is when a person like him, as I'm leaving the building, he said, Mike, I just want to let you know I have your 6.
That's beautiful.
When you have a SEAL Team 6 member tell you that, then and he's a sniper, you know what I mean?
Right.
He is. But I'm going to tell you something. He is an amazing gentleman. He's a man of God, and he's an American, and he cares about the children of this country, much like I do. So I'm going to say that God has swiftly put me in the position that I'm in, and he is bringing warriors to me to help me fight this crisis that we're in.
So tell us a little bit about your story and where you live down there on the border, and what your experience has been. And before I forget, just keep it in the back of our head here. April Salazar is watching with us right
Awesome.
now, and she sent a
Hey, one
Mess-
second. Ask her if I have her permission to tell her story. Just ask.
That's what I was just going to tell you. She said, Mike, tell the story about my 17-year-old daughter. So let's not forget to handle that.
Perfect. I'm going to definitely do that. And I actually had it on the list, but I wanted to make sure first if I could get her permission. So I have it now.
Yep, we have it.
So the ranch that we have, I'm not going to say names because I want to protect the property, but I will tell you about where it's at. How's that sound?
Yep.
We definitely have threats. So this property is the last ranch before the Border Patrol checkpoint leaving Uvalde, Texas. So if you think about that in orientation of somebody who's sneaking across the border, the very last place they want to go is through the Border Patrol checkpoint.
Right.
So there's a railroad track that runs north and south in that area. And that railroad track is literally right in front of my gate. So they would have to jump the railroad. They see that gate. We are also a property that's right on the Nueces River, and the Nueces River flows right to Highway 90. So they circumvent the Border Patrol. They sabotage our property, and I'll tell you why I say the word sabotage in a minute. And they try to make their way to the river, but they also know that we have a windmill on the property. And for years, illegal immigrants have traveled the windmills. You can follow the Uvalde Police blog, and you can read the history of them coming through. There's a lot of stuff that's happened over 100 some odd years of them passing through, but there's a humongous difference that's taking place. It wasn't nothing to see 1 or 2 immigrants passing through, illegal immigrants passing through back in the day. But as I continue to grow this story with you, you're going to see the difference in how we've lived it and the threats that we have and how I'm lucky to be alive right now.
Right.
So this property, a family friend owns it. And so it's a hunting property that we had shared as business partners. And so he gave me the landowner rights to bring animals on the property. We worked with the Texas Animal Commission and all the powers that be to get everything done properly to bring on hunting animals. So it was originally a Christian retreat center. So this is a place where people came and they found God, and they had summer camps and things like that. But over time, that wasn't something that continued to happen. So there was quite a few years where not a lot of things happened on the property. My wife and I was thinking about doing something like this, and I called my buddy up, and he called me back the next day, and he goes, man, let's do this. So from the very get-go of starting this, we started to notice a little bit more. This has been almost 2 years now. So back in 2020, we started seeing more of an influx of people coming through. And one instance it was probably about 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock in the morning. We used thermal scopes to hunt hogs here in Texas. It's quite the sport.
Right.
And these wild boars on our property, they taste delicious, man. I mean, there's a lot of people that think that the wild hogs are nasty, but if you eat pig at the store, these hogs are eating more of a natural diet on the land versus eating slop or something else. So, I mean, we go to Uvalde Meat, which is a meat plant in town. They trim it up. They do a jalapeno cheddar sausage, and I'm going to tell you, you'll slap your granny if you eat that. It's that good. I just recently learned that term, and I have not forgot it. It's pretty funny.
Slap your
if
granny.
I slap my punch me in the face. But anyhow,
You and me both.
that's a Texas saying. I just happened to learn. It's that good. So the the animals, we were hunting them, and as I'm looking down the fence line, I started seeing lights. And this was the first encounter I ever had. So here I am in the middle of the night, and I see lights on the fence. So this is a 300-acre parcel, and it's 300 acres that people say hunts like 3,000. They're like, well, how is that even possible? It's the elevation, the drainages. It's a hill country property. So if it was just a flat square, 300 acres, you could only hunt a few people on it. But because it's got elevation, you can put quite a few people on it.
Gotcha.
So they're crawling through these thickets. And I'm telling you, like, these full-size cows that we had on the property at one point would not even run into the stuff that they run into. I mean, the thorns are half the length of this pin. I mean, those mesquite trees are this, and they'll put a Chevy or Ford or any kind of truck you got, they'll flatten their tires on them. So our buggy, we use that product called Slime just to give you an idea of what these folks are running through. So I called Border Patrol agents, and I told them, hey, I've got trespassers on the property. They come out. Of course, these folks are prepared. They're wearing carpet shoes, which is like if you were to take a carpet and cut it out around a shoe and strap it on your foot. They're doing this so they're harder to track.
So they're quiet too. They're quieter too, right?
Absolutely they are. They're climbing over the fence, damaging the fences, cutting the fences, however they have to get through. And if they're smuggling drugs, they're definitely cutting your fences, and those guys are coming through armed and dangerous. Well, that particular night, they were wearing all black. They didn't get caught at nighttime. They got caught in the morning. So they stayed somewhere on the property, and in the morning, the Border Patrol agents, they staked out, and they caught them climbing over the fence. So that's my very first ever encounter. So we're always trying to do good things out at the property. And as you know, during graduation last year, there was a lot of seniors that didn't get a chance to cross the stage, you know?
Right.
They did more of like an at-home graduation. So here in our local area, we got a chance to sponsor 2 seniors. And this has relevance to the story. So you get like a little care package, and you congratulate them for graduating school and whatnot. And that was how people accepted the graduation that year, because they couldn't bring mass people in to do a big school graduation. Well, one of the seniors' fathers happened to be a professor for one of our local colleges. And he said, well, I have a program at my school, and we're gonna adopt your guys' business. And I'm like, okay, what does that entail? And he's like, well, we're gonna send 4 students out to your ranch and let them do a project. Well, let me tell you how that ended up. These kids were brilliant, and we had 2 guys and 2 girls. So one of the girls wanted to hunt hogs at night. And if you've ever seen those tripod stands, they have like 3 legs like this, and it has an open chair at the top. We have seated one of those inside of a mesquite tree that's pretty big. So as you're climbing up the ladder, all you see is the tree. At the very top, it's a swivel chair with like an arm that goes up and down to protect them from falling out, but also doubles as a gun rest.
Right.
So my family and I went and sat in a blind across the prairie. So there's a big open prairie where all the animals come and graze at night. And so as the night went on, it was getting dark. And of course, she has this LED light and stuff she could use to see the animals. She heard something, and she noticed some lights. And you know where I'm going with this. She texted us, and she goes, are you guys walking around with spotlights out here? And I'm like, no. At that moment, 2 illegal immigrants walked right underneath her. So we called Border Patrol. The sheriff's department came out. We had 4 or 5 cop cars, special agents, Border Patrol agents. And the Border Patrol has like a special agent group of individuals that are very well trained on tracking and whatnot. They show up. That particular night, they did not catch the 2 guys again because they dress all in black. They looked for them everywhere. These Border Patrol agents put their life on the line every single day, as well as the sheriff department or state patrol, to try to seek these people out. They never know if they're armed or dangerous or not.
They're
So
always
the next
assuming
spring-
armed, I'm sure.
Sure. So they staked out. They caught the guys climbing our fence again. So that was my second encounter. My third encounter, which was probably the closest I had at this point, was I was at the gate. It's been a long day. It's 10:30 at night. And I'm sitting in a pickup truck, and I just texted my family, and I said, hey, I'm on my way home. And as I was doing that, there's the railroad there doesn't have the crossing arms that come down. It's just like this power shed type thing. It has a white light on top. That light is the only thing that allowed me to see the shadows running at me as fast as they could. So here I am in my truck. I locked my door. As you know what it sounds like when somebody's running and they're sliding for a base, but they get gravel on their feet. You can hear that. And they grab the door as hard as they could. I'm sitting in the passenger seat. I'm trying to figure out where to put my phone. And at that time, when you're in that stress, I was having a hard time remembering how to put the truck in drive. You know what I mean? 'Cause
Right.
I saw the guy ran around the front of the car. He had like a stick or something in his hand. It was long. And I know that they were going to attack me for my truck. They would have killed me for my truck that night. They were desperate. They wanted to get me out of that vehicle. As he ran around the front of the truck, I got the truck in the drive. I hit the gas and jumped the tracks, and I hauled down the street and I called Border Patrol, and I told them that I had 2 people try to hijack my truck. It was a very intense time. Your heart's like bouncing out of your chest. And so the Border Patrol agents came out. Of course, it's dark, and they're wearing solid black. Once again, they did not find them. So about a week went by before I went to the property again. That was enough to shake you up pretty good.
I'm sure it did.
So, but we have animals I have to feed, and I have to give them the nutrients they need when the weather's bad. So I went out there to feed them again, and the remnants of the ranch was these guys went to our pavilions. They broke into our fridge. They took a lot of meat. We have an outside chef's kitchen, and they got into this kitchen, and we have 4 cabins on the property and a beautiful pavilion, and they break the filters on our water filter on the ice maker because they know they're getting fresh water, and they were filling their gallon jugs to get out of there. But definitely saw that they came onto the ranch and they managed to do that. The third time that we had an incident, or I'm already miscounting. I had 1 with the crossing the fence, 2 with the kids from college, 3 hijacking. So we're on 4.
Right.
The fourth one was we had some guests on the property, and these guys came from up north, and they brought their kids, and they were hunting some animals, and we went to the taxidermy, and I had family that stayed on the property waiting. This was a very close encounter to my family. So as I get on the property, my family's in the cabin screaming, and they're screaming because there's a gentleman yelling at them in a different language trying to get into the cabin. Of course, my first instinct as a father, as a dad, is to attack the guy. But I'm much bigger than him. You know what I mean?
Right.
And I had to stop back and think, okay, well, if I attack this guy who's trying to break into my cabin, I'm going to probably get used as an example. Because these guys right now have more rights than we do. So, and I'll tell you more about that in a minute. And when you hear April Salazar's story, you're going to really get pissed because it's not fair what's happening. So anyhow, I stepped back, I got the guy's attention, and he looked at me and I said, agua. And he's like, yes, he wanted water. He's like, see. And I said, eat, food. You know, he kind of got the idea of what I was saying. So as he was walking with me, we had 2 308s loaded on the table that these guys were hunting with. You got to keep in mind, I wasn't there. He could have got those weapons, slaughtered my family. You know what I mean?
Right.
He was very antsy. And so the other hunters grabbed those weapons and they put them away. So everybody was safe, and the guns didn't have any rounds in them, but they definitely had rounds in the clips, you know?
Right.
But we felt safe to leave them out in the open because we didn't have to worry about that. But now we do. So as he's sitting there, he picked up his phone cord and he's like, electrical. And so he wanted to charge his phone. At that moment, when I saw his phone, there was a map there. And I took a screenshot with my phone of that map. That map was to the coyote that was waiting to pick him up. So as he was eating, the Border Patrol agents show up. They arrested him in front of my guest. And I did get a chance to translate to him. I asked one of the Border Patrol agents, I said, can you translate for me? And he's like, yes. I said, 1, you broke across our country's borders and you did it illegally. 2, you trespassed our property. 3, you intimidated my family. And 4, you hurt yourself doing this because now you're getting arrested. And he was bleeding. So this guy must have climbed razor wire or something, and he got hurt. He translated back to me that I had told him I didn't mean him any harm, and I want no harm to my family. But you can't do these things in America. It's not how we do things. If you're going to come across our border, you're going to do it the right way, and you won't get arrested next time. So then he translated back to me, I'm sorry, this will never happen again. Border Patrol agent puts him in the door and turns around and looks at me, and he said, Mike, this guy's from the Honduras, and these folks are kidnapping children, and they are harvesting their organs, and they are selling them. This is happening in America.
Straight from the Border Patrol agents.
What's that?
Straight from the Border Patrol agents who have experienced this.
Absolutely. Absolutely. There is horrific things that are taking place. Okay, so that was that one. the next one is I had brought my brother out because now we are in a situation where I didn't feel safe going out there by myself. So we went out to the ranch and we were going to different feeders and whatnot. And he doesn't get many opportunities to get away from what he's doing to come out and help me. But at the same time, a big brother, he wants to protect his little brother. So he comes out with me. And even though if he's watching this, I am his bigger little brother. We got to get that right.
I was going to say, you're pretty big.
Yeah, I'm the bigger little brother. So we need to establish that before his head gets too big. But no, he's a great person. He's a man of God, and I'm grateful to have him in my life.
What's his name? What's his name?
I don't want to share that.
Okay.
I with all due respect.
No, that's fine. That's fine.
You bet. So, my family's under threats, and so that's why I've got to be careful.
Sure.
He comes out to the place, and he was helping put corn in a feeder. And during that time frame, there was 3 shots fired extremely close to us. And so we had called Border Patrol, and as we were driving a fence line, my brother had stopped me and he said, "Hey man, look at this. There's guys hiding out under the railroad tracks." And one of those guys approached the fence, and we noticed that he was unarmed. And this guy came up to the fence, and he was asking for water, and we just had like some cans of stuff that was there. He didn't realize that that was his demise, that we were calling Border Patrol, because now he's exposed himself. He's not supposed to be there. He's hiding from them. And the Border Patrol agents in our town, they're our friends. We have U.S. Customs and whatnot in Uvalde. I've seen so many of these folks, they know me by name now. Right. And that's not common. Usually you see them when you go through the checkpoint, but they've come to my place so many times, they almost have a first name basis with me. And some of them definitely have a first name basis. We call Border Patrol. They send out helicopters. We saw 2 people. They caught 60 people. From the 2 people that we found on surrounding properties around us, 60 people were detained. So helicopter flying across the border, another helicopter flying across the river. They literally circle the property. We give them full access to all of our land. So they have gate codes and they can get on the place. And they had found those people. The other incident, which nearly lost my life, was there's criminal organizations crossing our border. And these folks are armed and dangerous. And I'm driving the buggy, and these Polaris 6-seaters move. You know, you can go nearly 70 miles an hour with them. But I was going about 25, 30 miles an hour. I had cottonseed and hay. And as I'm driving across one of these culverts where these guys are, there was a guy armed there, and he shot 3 rounds in a burst. It was like 3.
Right.
But because it's in a hollow space, you know, it sounded like dynamite going off because it's echoing, but I'm driving really fast. You know what I mean?
Yep.
So he pointed and he shot. I checked that buggy multiple times looking for rounds in it. So one of the things that we did that could have been something that saved my life was we took the screen doors off. So if you've ever seen those buggies, they got the screen so people don't fall out, but They have seat belts. And they become one of those things that if you forget to put it in, it drags the ground and whatnot. We just decided to take it off. Well, when they shot, my thoughts are they aimed at me or behind me, and they shot through the open space where the back seat is. So if we would have had passengers there, it would have killed them, because that's the only thing I can think of how they missed. Unless it was another warning, like, hey, stay away from us, and they shot the rounds in the air. But he was inside the tunnel, and I didn't even know to look that direction, if you know what I mean. Right. I wasn't looking for anybody. I just simply was driving down the way, trying to put feed in a feeder, and 3 rounds were shot, and I didn't even stop to look back. I hit the gas. I left dust, so it was real dusty in Texas when you're on the road. But that buggy will make a dust wall like 30 feet, 40 feet high when I'm going in that dust. So I just went, made the dust, called Border Patrol, and they came out, and they told me they got the guys. So these guys risk their life daily, and I thank God for these people. And if any of you folks are watching and you're wearing a badge or a uniform, you're a first responder, or you're in the military and you serve in our country, I want you guys to know that you have value in this guy's life. I support the blue. I back the blue.
So does Play Harder Radio.
Yes, sir. So there is another story to go with this. We had a dad and a little girl come out and hunt with us one time. And she'd come out and had never had a chance to really hunt with him. And so it was an early morning. and we got trail cameras on the property. And so I checked the cameras to double check when the animals are coming through to be able to plan with that much acreage and so many different types of animal people are looking for. I try to study the patterns of the animals and where they're going to be. Well, that particular morning, we were going to put them on this blind that we call the garbage pail blind. The garbage pail blind's on the northeast corner of the property. So we decided last minute not to put them there. And thank God that we did, because at 9:04, and I'll send you this picture after this podcast, a armed and dangerous illegal immigrant walked across that property. So think about how close that would have been if he would have walked right in front of them, armed and dangerous, and they're sitting in a bow blind like sitting ducks. So we had guests there having dinner, hunting, enjoying themselves, and this guy comes through. And so I sent that picture to one of the Border Patrol agents that I know, and he said, I want you to know we caught that guy. That picture was taken around 9:05. They caught him at 9:20. He shot 3 rounds at a Border Patrol agent in a town south of us called Bracketville. And so he traveled quite a few miles at night, and then they captured the guy the next day. So I'm not the only rancher who's having problems. That's just my story.
I was just going to
That's the tip of the iceberg here.
Right. I was just going to say, you've had so many interactions, confrontations with them. The Border Patrol spends so much time on your property, and you're just one of how many properties that they have to protect and deal with?
Thousands.
I love that.
Thousands.
I love hearing that they sound super responsive to you guys too.
Well, that's because for me, now let's talk about that. For me, I'm 5 minutes from them.
Okay.
So I know if I make a phone call, they are 5 minutes away. And these guys know. I mean, if I call them, there is dust down the road. They come in, it is like anything you've ever seen when they are flying down the road to get to me. So when you're under a threat like that and you're being shot at and your life is in jeopardy, just know as soon as they showed up, I tried to get out of there as fast as I could. And so from that point, I didn't go back. It's been a while since I've been out there. And the fact is that these animals that we have, we put a crop out to feed them during the winter. And that feed's called Whitetail Greens, by the way. I want to plug those guys.
Yeah, do it.
It's an amazing brand. They made what's called Texas Heat. And they bring this brand out. It grows all kinds of vegetation out on our property. And it's a hand-rolled seed. But when that burns off, our animals don't have vegetation, so they have lots of greenery to eat, but we want them to have bigger antlers and bigger bodies and good quality meat. So us ranchers have to get out there and do our jobs. But let's talk about that. My neighbor sold their property. The property that we have is currently for sale. It's not safe anymore. And we don't want to have to sell. Nobody does. But we feel like we're being forced out of our properties. The neighbors across the way, they broke into their cabin. It was an elderly couple. They had guns, money, and food. Well, you got to imagine when you're carrying a water bottle that probably feels like 50 to 100 pounds after 2 or 3 miles, right?
Right.
And guns weigh even more. But the guys carrying the guns also have giant backpacks, and they're smuggling drugs across our border. They're the cartels. And so they sold their property, and they sold their money, and they got into her purse, and they sold food because these folks don't have any of that. And so most of them do have a plan and know where they're going, but a lot of people are moving through. And so when they're not going to feed their animals, another lady called me on I do like lives like this on Facebook, and I got a lady on, and they asked her they would pay her $5,000 to drive her to Houston, Texas, for her to drive them to Houston, Texas. And this is an all-American cowgirl, and she had a gun on her hip, and she managed to intimidate them back into the woods. But she had kids with her, and all they were trying to do is get dinner done and feed their cattle. And so when her family's away, she's out there doing this stuff as herself. We have some strong women here in Texas, and you'll find that a lot of women do a lot of the men's work too. They're not afraid to get their hands dirty. They'll get out there, they'll work with the horses, and they'll work with the cattle, and they back the trailers. They do a lot of the work, and I think it's safe to say there's a lot of women here in Texas that are cowgirls that they can back a trailer better than a man, and that's a debate we can have on a whole other hour of of a podcast, but I've seen a lot of men with dents in the rear bumper, and I've seen a lot of women with perfect bumpers. So, I mean, it comes down to like skill at some point, but I'm not going to get into that. I guarantee you there's Texans all over laughing right now. Somebody probably just spilt their beer. You know what I mean?
Right.
So let's talk about some other critical issues. And if you have questions for me, I don't want to control this whole thing.
I got a couple questions for you.
Let's go.
Before we get on to your next point, is the fence on your border of your land, is that government fence or is that just your private fencing?
It's our private fence, and those fences cost about $10,000 a mile.
And you don't, wow. And you don't, that's crazy. And so this is part of, you would welcome the wall there?
Oh, Lord Jesus, yes. So let's talk about that. Everybody's saying Donald Trump didn't build a wall. Let me tell you, he did. 460 miles, as he would say it, beautiful wall. Okay. So when he built this wall, it's just like anything else, James, is if you and I wanted to climb a 7-foot fence, we could build an 8-foot ladder, right?
Right. Easy.
So what's happening at the border wall, everybody was putting him down as goes, people can climb over that wall. You hear the stories of them climbing over and dropping babies, and we'll talk about that in a minute. But
right.
They're climbing that wall. They're building rope ladders. And I actually have one with me, but it would take me a second to get to the trunk of my car and show you what it looks like. I did not grab that out of there. If my wife is watching this, she can run and go get it for me out of the car.
She is watching.
She is watching. So these ladders are being made in Mexico. And so it says Hecho de Mexico on there. So we know they're made in Mexico, and that's what the tubing says. But they're making a grappling hook, right?
Right.
And then they're taking PVC and they're tying knots on both ends, and then they go down PVC knots. They're making them long enough, and then they throw the rope and ladder over, and they lock it on the top, right? And the whole thing wobbles as they go, but they found a way to try to circumvent this. A lot of folks go, well, the wall's no good, and why would we build it if people can climb over it? For this reason. We have state-of-the-art technology. We have FLIR technology. We have lights. But I'm going to call out the Biden administration is currently turning off our surveillance systems down there. And any folks in the Border Patrol group will tell you that those lights help them to see the people crossing the border. So
that was only common sense.
Why in the world would the guy who's calling himself the president of our country, because I'm not going to call him that, but the guy who calls himself the president of our country is turning off the lights to allow the criminals to cross? He is helping and aiding the enemy. And that's against his constitutional oaths that he is supposed to uphold. And so I want you to know that there's some women that have basically, you can bring it in. So I have it right here. I'm going to show you this. All right. This is the bag that it was handed to me in. All right. Whoa. Sorry about that.
No, you're good.
That's how heavy the thing is. All righty. So this lady drove a very long ways. I was actually in Dallas, and she wanted me to have this to show people. So they make a hook like this. You see that?
Okay.
And I'm not doing this to teach people how to do this. I want people to see. It's made in Mexico. Hecho de Mexico. See that?
That's
right there.
Yep.
So they're making it like this. See that? This thing goes on and on and on for the length of our wall. Right here. It's you. You got an idea.
Yeah.
So they're making these things in Mexico, and they're throwing them up on the wall, and they're climbing over. But the fact is, that wall's pretty high. And by the time our surveillance systems, we have FLIR technology, and they have these towers now that are solar paneled that are very, very, very state of the art. And so they can the system learns itself. So they can tell if it's a human, they can tell if it's an animal, they can tell if they need to respond. So the wall is a deterrent. There's a lot of people that don't have the health to climb it or the strength to climb it. And so now they have to try to find some way to circumvent. But in one of Donald Trump's last addresses, he did tell people that there are areas that need to be fixed. And if they don't fix them, they will come through there. And guess what? They are coming through in droves, people. And one of those spots is on the Rio Grande River. And they are lining up there by the hundreds. And as you and I talking right now, as you and I are talking, this is no BS. If I had a live camera to show you right now, they're on a raft and they're crossing our border. And you know what they're doing? They're yelling for Border Patrol. Now, you might ask, why would they be yelling for Border Patrol? That's because they know that our president is going to give them a hotel room for up to 6 months. They're going to get tested. They're going to get processed. They're going to get a $1,400 debit card. And they're going to get airline tickets to a city near you. It's happening. And here's the thing. That's breaking every single immigration law in the United States of America. I'm sure there's people watching this, James, that go, my family paid $10,000 to get my dad over here, or my mom, or my grandmother, or my son, or my daughter. These folks are not equipped to be Americans. Now, some of them can speak English, but a lot of them can't. A lot of them don't have jobs. They're illiterate. And a lot of them don't want to be here. So I want everybody to know that I'm talking to here. These people are not free when they come here.
Right.
And it's not because of America. It's because smuggling people is a ginormous business. Millions of dollars a day are being spent with people in stash houses. So let's talk about that. When they cross the border, they have a bracelet on, right? That bracelet means that they were paid and they're color coded. The cartels put these bracelets on these people. And so they go into a stash house. When they get to that stash house, they are held for ransom. And those people cannot leave until they come up with the money. So here's like just tons of pictures that you can see. And I'll send you pictures on your phone after this. Is these folks in these stash houses. These guys make all this money and they go, you've got to pay 10 times more. So let's say it cost them $2,700 to get here. And now they have to pay 10 times that to get out of the stash house. But
wow.
if you're a criminal, right, and you can see that this person is bringing money in, do you think when they pay the 10 grand, they're going to let them go?
Doesn't seem likely.
It doesn't seem likely. And so that's happening. Stash houses bust by our ICE agents. They're busted by our state patrol. They're busted by our county sheriff's department. They're busted by our border patrol agents that are our top agents that are researching this, the tracking teams, the people that are following this. But you see a lot of pregnant women and little girls coming through. And sex trafficking is a humongous business in our country, and it needs to be stopped. These little girls, they have a 5-year life expectancy. 5 years. So I want to talk about how these kids are coming over here. Imagine a baby, a child that's 3 to 5 years old. And that border wall, you know how high that is.
Yep.
I actually have live video of them climbing up the wall with 2 babies, and they're dropping the babies off the wall. Did you know that people are breaking their legs, breaking their ankles? And one lady right now, as of today, is in critical condition because she jumped off the wall and she landed on her damn head.
Is that that wall? If I'm not, I always thought that wall was about 30 feet high.
It's pretty damn high, yes, sir.
And is the video you're talking about the night vision video where they dropped the 2 little kids over?
Guys, you see the 2 guys run afterwards.
Yeah, running away.
When the first baby hit the ground, it looked like it was almost unconscious, right? It was down there for a second. And then you're like, thank goodness it stood up. And then you see them with another baby, and they're dropping that child off. Was there anybody with them after that?
Who's grabbing that baby? Who's grabbing those kids?
The cartel or the people that are trafficking them. You know what I mean?
Yep.
And those kids, I want you to know some of those kids have made that journey themselves. So from Del Rio, Texas, up to San Antonio is, I don't know exact math, but let's see, Del Rio to Uvalde, where our place is, about 70 miles. 70 miles. Imagine being a little kid. So in Texas, we have mountain lions. And on our property, we had like a 160-pound fallow buck, like a big animal, big antlers. And the mountain lion kills for sport, and they bury their prey. And so a child wearing a little shirt that says, Biden, please help me or let me in. They're wearing Biden shirts. You'll see pictures in Mexico of all of them saying, Biden, please help me. They're being influenced, and you know this. Because here's the thing. We have citizens in the United States that have kids, and we take care of them. But there's a family here in Texas that their names got out all over the news. It's the Hobbs family. They found 5 little girls left for dead on their property. You've probably seen the video that's went viral. They found 2 sets of sisters there, and one of the babies was without a diaper, and she was dehydrated so bad that the landowners thought she was dead. And if you saw the pictures of these babies, they're some of the most beautiful kids you've ever seen. There is no kid in America that deserves that.
Heartbreaking.
No kid. And so when those kids become of age or a little bit bigger and they get sex trafficked, somebody's going to be gang raping those children. And they're doing it on U.S. soil, and it needs to stop. The people that are fighting this, they literally put them on a page like cars for sale. And the stories, you know, I talked to Craig Sawyer, and I talked to the guys that matter. And these guys are telling me, Mike, you're not going to believe what we see. Can you imagine what that child feels when Craig or one of those SEAL team members kicks open that door? That is the first time they see freedom. And I'm going to tell you, I cried tears with him. Sorry.
No, man. It's all right.
When you see babies like that and you know what's happened to them, those people are sick and they deserve a life in prison or to be hung in public. There is no reason for that to be happening to the kids in America. And I don't care what country they come from. No kid deserves that. It's not their fault.
No kid. I was going to ask you what your gut feeling is about the people that are doing this stuff to the kids and everything, and and how you feel like it ought to be handled. But I think you expressed it right there. It really angers me, and I hear about it. We hear about it. I believe what's going on. I believe the things I hear from Border Patrol down there. I believe they're undermanned. I believe they can't do near what they need to do down there.
Right.
And it's heartbreaking. And and the fact that all this is trying to be is being covered up is just mind-boggling.
Yep. I think this is a good time to transition to April Salazar's story.
Sounds good.
I'm going to tell her story, because we're talking about this in April. Before I tell this story, I want you to know I love you, and I pray for your family every single day. And I'm so sorry to have to tell them what has happened. But I met this lady at the Texas State Capitol building, and she is a powerful patriot, and she is fighting for Texas State. And when she told me this story, it pulled my heartstrings, and I cried like a baby. And it's because when we have a president that is allowing 2,000% more sex offenders cross our border here in America. Well, in my circle of life, it touched this woman's life, because her 17-year-old daughter was simply just walking home from school when 3 undocumented illegal immigrants jumped and tried to gang rape her daughter. They were trying to get her panties down, and her daughter fought for her life. Now, this is where it's twisted. Her daughter injured one of those guys, and her daughter's having to go to court to fight because she's trying to protect herself because somebody was trying to rape her. What kind of administration do we have? What kind of laws do we have? I don't know about you, but if I walked into a room and there was a man touching my family like that, he ain't walking out of there.
Not leaving that room. That if it was a citizen, she'd be fine and they'd be in jail.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So let's talk about their rights versus our rights. If you and I stole a car, which is a very big thing that's happening right now. Right now, they're hijacking vehicles. You guys know my story. They tried to hijack mine. So in downtown Uvalde, there was a lady and her husband. They were just at the grocery store, probably got groceries, and they're getting gas at the grocery store pump. And while they were at a pump, a black Chevy truck pulls up, and the wife was witty and smart, and she locked the door. The passenger of that truck ran around to the passenger side trying to get in, broad daylight in the middle of the day, The driver went around the driver's side. The husband just simply left the truck for 1 second trying to pay the tab. In broad daylight in the middle of town, they're trying to hijack the car. Never, ever have I seen things like this in this little town. Never. But if you're sitting and having breakfast, before I could look across and I could see the pasture and at the breakfast place that I go in, the beautiful land, whatnot. I went to breakfast and in 1 hour I saw 2 high-speed chases. And that's just the time frame I'm having breakfast. So because of the magnitude that this is happening, we have been calling our Texas State Governor, Greg Abbott, one call after another, one call after another, one call after another. People are calling him and screaming out, reaching their hands up saying, you are our Texas State Governor. Please declare a state of emergency for the state of Texas.
What's his holdup? What's his holdup?
I have no idea. But let me talk about the men that are standing up for Texas. Ted Cruz. Ted Cruz is coming out there. He's calling Biden and he's calling Kamala out. Did you know they haven't even came to our border in Texas?
I do.
But you know who? Greg Abbott has come to the border. Ted Cruz has walked that border. Many of our Texas state congressmen have walked that border.
Let me ask you.
We had an attorney. Go ahead.
I have a question. So Abbott, I saw some footage of him being down on the border, and
sure.
I felt like watching him. One of the things he said is he mentioned what you just said, that Harris and Biden hadn't been to visit the border. And I'm like, and he said, this is what he said. He goes, if they would just come and see, if they would just come and look, they would see what's going on. And that made me so angry because that's BS. They know what's going on. It's why they're not coming down. And Abbott is just pacifying them. And I thought it was a very passive, I thought it was BS.
He has the power to make a difference. But I want to praise somebody who stood up for Texas State, wears a cowboy hat, sits in an attorney's office, and his name's Brent. And this attorney, if he's watching, God bless this guy. This guy drafted the declarations to declare a state of emergency. And he went to every single county in Texas. Now, this is just a county attorney. But I'm going to tell you something. He's a man of God. He's a cowboy. He stands up for what he believes in. And there's a lot of counties right now that can rest a little better at night because they declared a state of emergency in their town and they're getting more help. What I will say about this, Abbott has dispensed our DPS officers. But let's talk about that. We have our Border Patrol who's spread thin. Now our DPS officers are being spread thin. And the DPS officers out there, if you guys are listening to me, I love you guys. And you guys got to know that I'm not trying to be ill about Governor Abbott. I don't want to be plastered all over as negative on him. But he does have the power to make a difference. And a lot of people, not just me, a lot of people have come to me and goes, why won't he declare a state of emergency? And he has declared in certain areas enough to get the DPS agents and people out there. And I've got guys that I graduated school with that are the law enforcement officers, and they're telling me that they're going to these South Texas cities and these hotels are prepaid for by the Biden administration. And I have another guy I'm going to praise. His name's Ray. And Ray, if you're watching, this man has stood up in Pleasanton, Texas. They have a hotel there. And they actually interviewed the bus driver. And the bus driver said, well, there was a van that pulled up, and the van had a woman and a daughter who tested positive for the COVID virus. They're bringing them inside the hotel. And in this particular hotel, the staff that used to work there was living there. They kicked her and her kids out of the room. She runs the whole hotel. They kicked her out to make more space for the illegals. The illegals, taxpayers spend $76,666 of our taxpayer dollars in 6 months to house these people. They're getting a $1,400 debit card.
6 months?
Traversing at the airport. If you and I went to an airport, you and I have to walk through the metal detectors. We have to walk through the screening, all that stuff. They walk straight onto the plane. And are you ready for this? We have a family friend that was on a particular airline, and I don't want to say the name of it because I don't want backlash for the airlines, but a particular airline bumped all the passengers and gave the illegal immigrants priority on that flight. So now you have all these passengers had to rebook their flights to watch people that don't even belong here fly away.
Mind-boggling. I'm getting so much information from you. This is really good to know, and I hope we're getting this out there to people who have heard stuff or don't believe what's going on. This is firsthand knowledge and information.
So here's another one. I already told you about the kids being dropped off the wall.
Right.
I told you that the kids in sex trafficking. They have found babies in the middle of the woods, dehydrated just by themselves. Border Patrol agents have told me this. I want you to understand, I do care about the folks crossing our border as well. I'm not a heartless individual. I care about them, but they're coming across illegally. And there are folks that want to come here for the right reasons, and they're sneaking across trying to do that. But then we have folks that don't want to be here who are being used as a distraction. So I told you I talked to Tim Foley. Tim told me that the cartels, they're not idiots. They're very smart people. They run $1 billion business. So if our Border Patrol is spread thin, then a strategy that they're using is, hey, we need 60 of these people, and you're going to come, or we're going to threaten your families, and we're going to take their lives. And we're going to send you guys to the west side of this border. And then we're going to take 60 more, and we're going to send them to the east side of this border. And when the Border Patrol agents dispatch, that's when they're moving the drugs. We have possession of millions of pounds of drugs that have been seized. Millions. We have more fentanyl that has crossed our borders in 55-gallon drums. If you were to put them on the backs of a semi, it would look like an oil truck taking oil to, be processed and put into, containers.
Right.
But it's giant red barrels of fentanyl. In Van Horn, Texas, on pack mules, they found hundreds of pounds of marijuana in these giant packages. And these folks are using everything they can do to get there and pass our borders to carry these things across. And when you see that many drugs, my first reaction is that's a poor future for Texas. Those drugs are going to cause more people to go to rehab. And if one of my friends is watching here, she's going to know who I'm talking about. She's a drug counselor. And she told me that she has seen more fentanyl cases in the last couple months than she has seen in the last few years.
I had a discussion just recently with somebody about the fentanyl. And my son, by the way, is 5 years clean and sober right now and is very familiar with the opioid side of things. And, the fentanyl is that it's so little of it to get the high and so much cheaper is why they're using it.
Yep.
They don't care, but, they're killing their customers, but not enough, I guess.
Yep.
It's.
Well, I'm about to get a little morbid. I want to tell you how one of the Border Patrol agents has told me this story. We love kids in our world, don't we?
We absolutely do.
Well, if we love kids, then why aren't we stopping the drug guys that are taking a little baby, cleaning out its internal organs, putting a big sack of heroin in there, stitching them up like a rag doll, putting their clothes back on and acting like they're bringing a baby across the border. They reach their destination, they get the drugs out, and they throw the carcass away because it meant nothing to them. Why aren't we doing something about that, James?
We're not even hearing about that.
Absolutely, you're not. But you're hearing about it now.
I haven't heard. I'm not surprised. I'm not blown away by that story.
Yep.
I believe it.
Yep.
I believe it.
Yep.
I don't understand you know what? Because we're up against an enemy that has no, there's no low for this enemy. There's no low that they won't stoop to.
Not at all. But I want to step on the other side of this coin for a second. I want to talk about the people crossing our border now. So let's imagine that you're living in a country where there is massive fear. The cartels have taken over. The cartels are at war down south. I have very, very graphic images of what a cartel member will do if you betray them. They want you to know, stay the hell out of their business. And these immigrants will come across our border, and some of them aren't prepared. Some of them are taking pseudoephedrine. They want to move faster, and it gives them tons of energy. But if they're not hydrated, Tim Foley was the one to tell me this, is if they're not hydrated, that dehydrates them faster, and they're dying of dehydration. Because in Texas, we get 100+ degree weather out here.
Right.
And just me drinking, 7 to 8 bottles of water a day is barely enough to stay alive. And they're barely getting a bottle. So we're finding bodies out there. So let's talk about that. When you have the folks who are coming across here, nobody wishes them to get hurt. Nobody does. But they don't want to get caught. And so if you look up the Uvalde police blog, you'll find this story in there. And I believe there was anywhere between 6 or 12 people in this story. And I don't have the exact number, so I don't want to exaggerate too far. So let's just round it up to 10 people. So 10 people trying to cross through. They know that if they went on a property and they were seen, the Border Patrol is going to call them, so that increases their chances of getting caught. So they've been coming through the woods, 70 miles of Texas in the roughest terrain you can imagine. And the only place they felt safe was the railroad tracks. You know where I'm going with this? So they thought that if they laid on the tracks, they could hear the train coming. The Border Patrol agent that shared this story with me said the only reason they knew how many people there were was because of how many different pairs of shoes had feet in them on each side of the tracks. You can look it up. True story. Folks were, Texas had our big cold snap this year, and it got really cold. We got more snow than Texas has seen in many, many years. And some of these folks crossed the border, and they didn't have big jackets, and they didn't have wool socks, and they didn't have the things to equip them to even do what they were doing. When the snow melted, you've probably seen a deer on the side of the highway before.
Yep.
And that's after all the vultures had pulled away the skin, and there's just bones laying there. I went to a town hall here in Uvalde, Texas, and one of the Republican for Women stood up, and she was giving a speech, and she was very prepared. And in her speech, she had an image of what looked like to be a teenage person, not sure whether it was a boy or girl. They were wearing a name brand of tennis shoes that we're all aware of. I just don't want to throw it out there because that had no reason to cause any negative. But the person had shoes on. And there's the skull and there's the carcass. It literally looked like you and I went to the Halloween store and we grabbed a skull and a skeleton to hang out for decoration. Except for this is a person whose life meant something. But because we don't have the best immigration laws being enforced, they feel like they have to sneak across here. And some of them know if they get here and they find Border Patrol, that they're going to get a hotel and they're going to get meals and they're going to get an airline ticket to wherever they want to go. But hunting properties are pretty big in the South, right?
Right.
So on one of the Facebook pages, this gentleman was simply walking through his hunting property and they found a dead body under his hunting blind. Dead bodies have been found in the river. Extra dead bodies have been found in a hunting blind. One of the ranchers found a gentleman dead on the steering wheel of his truck. Now, that's me I care about these people, those folks. But then there's the folks that come over here that have no care for life whatsoever. In one instance, just recently, they hijacked an ambulance out of Laredo, Texas. They went down I-35 at high rates of speed. I have the full video. They jumped the intersection, and one of our state patrol officers was there trying to create a roadblock. That state patrol is currently in ICU fighting for his life. That person that caused the wreck, I hope he went to jail. I don't know. But I'm going to tell you, there's folks that have stolen trucks, ran through fences, caused massive amounts of damages to property, and they're just getting their hands slapped. They're getting processed. They're be put on an airplane to go do it somewhere else. But you probably heard the story. There are some governors in other states that aren't putting up with this, like Iowa. Did you hear that one? I
didn't hear the Iowa one, no.
So they show up, and he put them on a plane and flew them back to their country, all of them. He refused to follow Biden's orders, and he said, no, I don't want them in my state. They're not equipped to be here. As they landed, he had already had the plane rerouting to go to another place. He made sure to feed them all, give them a restroom break, do what they would need to do in between flights, took care of them with his people, but made sure they didn't stay in his state. And That's how you do it, folks.
I
They
love
don't
it.
belong here. Come through the wrong way. They're getting more rights. And I'm going to tell you something that really ticks me off. I'm a retired military veteran. And when I hear, and this has happened, they have kicked veterans out of places where they were comfortable, where they were living, and they are giving these illegal immigrants more power and more lifestyle than a veteran who has bled for this country, the United States of America. I heard Ted Cruz say it best when Ted Cruz said, Biden is breaking relationships with our allies and he's building relationships with our enemies. It's completely ass backwards.
And it's deliberate too.
Oh, you know it is.
Hey, let me. What did I want to ask you? In Texas, so we've got. So somebody just mentioned that Tennessee was doing the same thing that Iowa did. In Texas, is the reason they're able to get on those planes and get sent out is because those are federal agents processing them at that point?
At that point, I believe so. Yes. So let's talk about where our Border Patrol agents' hands are tied. So the Biden administration has put a gag order on our Border Patrol. So that means that if any media, you and I were to go to try to interview them, they could lose their job for talking to media. They've been gagged. So the Border Patrol agent processes them. So, right, they're going to get a piece of paper right here, right? And a piece of paper, it basically says they don't speak English, they need help, right? And they're taking that piece of paper, and then they're getting a manila envelope. The piece of paper gets them in the hotel. The envelope has whatever other stuff they're putting in there. Their airline tickets, their $1,500 or $1,400 gift card or debit card. They take them to the hotel. They stay there however many nights they have to. There is COVID testing that was happening, and there was DNA testing. But because I'm not an expert in those things, I'm not going to claim that I know right or wrong.
Right.
But I know that there's some folks that are speculating that the DNA testing is slowed. And if somebody's a expert in this, then please shoot James a text and let him know that you know the answer. But my understanding is they're testing these folks for the COVID-19. And 3 weeks ago, 130,000 people were tested. 4.5% of them tested positive. That means 5,680 people 3 weeks ago. But those numbers have inflated now to 10% people and twice as many folks being tested. So now we're in the realm of nearly 20,000 positive cases of COVID allowing to come into our borders. So he's pressing this, you need to get vaccinated or you're going to have to wear a mask BS. But he's going to let 20,000 people who are infected with COVID on an American plane to fly wherever they want to go with their potentially have the disease. Now, I'm hearing that they're putting them in quarantine for 7 days in these hotels. But just putting them in quarantine for 7 days, does that guarantee that they're still not infected?
No.
It doesn't. So now we're going to put them on an airline, right? And this stuff spreads by liquid coming out of our mouth, that being, wipe your nose and touching something. Now they're on a plane and they're touching the seats, they're touching those trays. And these airlines are a quick turnaround. And every single airline out there, they got a cleanup crew that takes pride in cleaning those planes. But in disinfecting and doing what they have to do to make these planes safe. But I guarantee you, they don't want to have to go in there and have to touch all that stuff. That's risking their life. But it's happening because they don't get to say so. Are they making the money? Yeah, they're making the money because the government's paying for these flights. That does well for the airlines. But these other cities here in Texas, some of these cities, they're relying on this economic boost right now.
Right. The government's basically buying their cooperation of the hotels and the airlines.
So let's talk about that. I told you I could go for a long time, buddy, when we got on here. I'm good. Fired up. Go. I'm talking to every single oil field worker who's watching this. Number one, your pipeline never needed to be shut down. Number two, you guys have value in our country. And number three, every single thing that he wants to run in the USA, your sweat and your hard work and your paid jobs are the ones who make it happen. So it makes me sick that he did that first thing in the office. But these folks, they stay in those hotels, these oil field workers. So in Pleasanton, Texas, Ray, my buddy, he's down there all the time. And he would tell me that you've probably been to a place where there's a group of individuals that use the hotels when they travel there, and they are always full parking lots. The oil field workers, they all have their white work trucks and whatnot, and they fill those parking lots in the evening. There is no parking available.
Right.
If I were to go there right now, the only cars in that parking lot is the staff that works there. It says no vacancy on the sign, but the only cars in that parking lot are the staff that works there. Those oil field workers who still have to work in these areas are now having to travel further distances to get their job done. And that's not fair to them. They're pushing all the people in the community that matter. So let's say you're having a birthday party for your family, and that hotel is built in that town to give people a place to stay that doesn't have extra room at their house, or they need a place to stay because that's a destination that they're going to.
Right.
So now they're not able to get those spots because they're paying for these things for a long term. This isn't, we're just going to rent it for 6 months. They have contracts for very long terms. And in the town of Plexington, there is more than one hotel that's doing this. And so these guys protested in front of the hotel. And I'm not going to say the name of the businesses just to avoid any type of conflict. But there was let's just say an eatery nearby. And that eatery had a manager that worked there. That manager didn't want him there. So the gentleman, Ray, is a 12-year law enforcement officer. And of course, he checked city ordinance before he put his tent up. He was okay where he was, but she didn't want him to be there. So she called the police. The police had to say, well, this lady at this particular eatery doesn't want you here. And he's like, well, am I okay? And he's like, well, of course you're okay. You know what came next? 40 cars. And all the guys got out, had bandanas. And those guys brandished weapons on him. They made it a point that he needed to get the hell out of there. And I'm not going to say what organization that was, but they definitely made a statement. And they backed up around his car, all 40 of these cars. But they came in an instant like they were ready, like a cavalry. And there's that too. What the hell's that about? This is just a man saying, I love my country. I'm going to protest the fact that a hotel in my town is supporting this crime, because that's exactly what it is. Why is it that this man running this country is getting away with breaking immigration laws and nobody has done anything to hold him accountable? Texas State Lieutenant Governor is suing him right now for breaking immigration laws.
It's mind-boggling, man. I don't even know what to say. You know, you've got Cruz fighting for you, you know, and several other, I'm sure, and you got Louis fighting for you, I'm sure.
I don't want to completely discredit Governor Abbott. I don't.
I think he's doing some good things. I think he's doing some good things, but there's something holding him back.
Things. I want to say some good things about him because I don't want to get plastered all over for saying negative things about our governor, who I think is trying to do things for our state. But I do want to reinforce the fact he does have powers and he can declare a state of emergency, and people are screaming for help. Lives are being lost. This is no longer just an invasion, folks. It is a war when our police officers and men that are putting on their uniforms are losing their lives fighting for this daily. These guys are tired. They wake up every single morning. They put their badge on their chest. They kiss their family goodbye, but not like you and I do. They kiss their family goodbye. I've seen grown men doing videos out there. One of them that really grabbed my heart was a 20-year law enforcement officer. And people have been discrediting our men in uniform. And I want to take just a brief second on this, and I'm going to jump into a bunch more. But our men in uniform, they deserve respect. There's no defund the police in my vocabulary. This guy was in tears because he puts on that uniform, he kisses his family goodbye because he doesn't know if he's going to get to come home and hug his kids when he gets home. But we can sit and bitch about him all day long, but we don't appreciate, and we show gratitude when they do something right. You know, I'm not going to sit here and justify that there's people that haven't made poor choices in that arena. But those people that's made the poor choices, they make everybody else who loves their job and stands up for all the things good that a police officer does, they make it look bad for everyone. And those guys in uniform don't deserve that. They deserve respect. They deserve love. If you see an officer, you tell them thank you for their service. That's what we need to be doing. God bless those guys.
And I do that. You know how you and I were raised. We didn't get raised like that, you know?
No.
It's like, well, don't, you know, you might, when we were young, you might think they did something wrong, and you go to your dad to bitch about it, and he's like, I don't care what you say, you know? Follow the law. They're the authority. You show them respect. We're teaching people to disrespect them now. The exact opposite.
Absolutely. So I want to ring on a couple more things. How are we doing on time, boss?
We're good. Go for it.
We're good. Okay, so this year, 105 law enforcement officers and men in uniform have lost their lives. And 3 service dogs have lost their lives fighting this battle. Fighting in this country. 105. And in Texas, this last week, 2 officers were killed in cold blood in Concho, Texas. And I want you to know I'm praying for those families, and I care about those men. And may they rest in peace and be known and remembered as heroes who fought for our great state of Texas. They are heroes. They shouldn't be looked at anything less. So I talked about high-speed chases. There was 13 illegal immigrants in a Ford SUV. And, of course, they're not following Texas state laws. They ran an intersection, and they got hit by a concrete truck. In that car was a 2-year-old little girl. I believe it was 2 years old. She was a young girl. We'll say young. I don't know the age 100%, but I know she was younger.
Right.
And that kid lost her life in the middle of all this. When the concrete truck hit that SUV, it killed all 13 of them. Those kind of things are happening. Ranchers, one of the reasons I created my nonprofit, Warriors for Ranchers, is simply because there is no crisis relief for what's happening right now. And I was asked to come to a town hall in Uvalde by our U.S. Customs Office and speak on my story and speak on some of the things going on in our community down there. When I stood up in that room, I looked around myself and I saw the people of that community, and I could see the pain in their eyes. And there was a couple there, and one of the couples, you could just see the water welling up like she's getting ready to be in tears. And of course, it's real easy to stand up and not say what's on your mind. But I let it all out, all of it. And at that moment, I knew I needed to try to do something to try to help these people. And so I formed Warriors for Ranchers. And that's because right now, these folks are still in people's cars. They're driving through their gates. They're driving through their fences, and they're ruining their crops. So due to certain laws, the farmers can't use those crops. It ruins everything because they're taking that food to market. So now they've driven a truck with oil and gas and everything. It gets all over the plants, and they swerve all through it. They don't care that farmer woke up in the morning before his family. He drank his cup of coffee. He puts his cowboy hat on. He goes out to that tractor. He starts plowing that soil from early morning to late in the evening. And as his family's getting ready to sit down for dinner, he takes his cowboy hat and he hangs it up. That's every farmer in the state of Texas. You'll see them first thing in the morning doing their job, and you'll see them late in the evening finishing that job. And some of the most beautiful crops you'll ever see are in this state of Texas. But everything that they're working for and everything that they take pride in is being destroyed during this time of crisis. So we currently are trying to raise money to help all these families through Warriors for Ranchers. And if people want to donate, they can find us on Venmo at Warriors for Ranchers, and they can make a donation if they feel led to do so. But that money is going to be used to help rebuild fences. It's going to be used to help get materials to their property, transportation of the goods. But we've got folks right now that have, quarter-mile fence, even more than that. Some of these gates are $10,000 a piece. So they drive through 3 gates. That's $30,000 if it's the really nice gates. And some of them just have a swing and iron gate. They're not that expensive, but they're still expensive. It's time, it's effort, it's protection to these people. You don't want to leave your door unlocked at your house because you let in unwelcome guests. And at their ranches, those unwelcome guests are knocking down their doors. And not just their fences. I mean, they're breaking into their houses. They're eating all their food. they're tearing up their beds and how they keep their place neat. And let's say that farmer goes to that property, once every other month. Well, they go in there and they squat in that place and they come back to their entire property being torn up. You know who's flipping the bill for that? The ranchers are.
They are.
So I went to the Texas State Capitol. Never in my life have I ever done anything like this. This might humor you a little bit, but I had a lady named Karen get a hold of me through my organization. So Warriors for Ranchers was formed literally 2 weeks ago. And in 2 weeks, we have nearly, between everybody who follows the page, likes the page, groups the page, we're gaining over 3,000 some odd people. Every single one of these people believe in what I'm doing, and every single one of these people has been helping to prepare me and help me to get information, and they're out doing their thing to get information as well. And Miss Salazar, April Salazar, was at the Capitol building today. And so when I was at the Capitol building, I didn't know what I needed to do. There's 7 different bills going through that day, and 2 of which pertain to what I needed to speak on. And so I asked the guy, he was like an attorney. He said, well, why don't you just sign up for every one of them? You get 2 minutes to talk. So I'm like, okay, sign up for every one of them. And I get up there, and this guy's trying to pass a bill for like marijuana, right? And it's like if you went and got a speeding ticket and you got a speeding ticket and you no longer be able to drive again in your life. It's kind of like what they were talking about, except for this guy's smoking pot. He gets caught, but later gets trained to open a dispensary. So where I'm headed with this, I had to talk about the bill if I proved I was against it. I said, I'm all for it. The guy learned his lesson. He got a ticket for smoking pot, and now he's wanting to educate people and build a dispensary to do it for something good for people. So for all you people out there, I helped you guys get that passed through that committee that day. The next one was rioting. And during that time, I got a chance to talk to them and speak on rioting. And we passed a bill in that committee that it was unanimous that if people are going to go downtown and tear up the community, restitution is going to be paid. Well, I got a chance to talk about ranches. And I got a chance to tell them that if these people are coming into Texas and they're going to knock down our doors and they're going to terrorize this land, and these farmers and these ranchers who are crying tears at their gates, and they have to take their mom and dad hat off, and they have to put their Farmer John hat back on, and they got to put their boots back on and get their gloves and their pliers, because these folks get out there and they'll work sun up to sundown to fix this property. And it's not fair to them to be the one flipping the bill to that. So Warriors for Ranchers, we're there we're doing a humanitarian effort to help these folks. So we're currently trying to raise $1 million on Facebook. And currently we hit like $1,800. I think through that and some Venmo, we've cleared $2,000 that we've been able to get. But until the Facebook is done, we won't see all that money.
We need
so
to
they for a certain amount of time.
We're going to need a lot more than that. And so hopefully everybody listening tonight can contribute. I put the Venmo in the comments here just now, and I will edit the header of the show with the Venmo and your Facebook page. I think I already have your Facebook page on there.
You
so
bet.
That we can get more people directed to it.
I'm looking here to see if I missed anything. I pretty much covered it. So I want to just get right to the nitty gritty of this whole thing.
All right.
If our administration would get down there, one, this wall's been funded by the Trump administration. This wall's paid for, and every ounce of its materials are just sitting on the ground like wasted goods. The Biden administration recently did say, hey, well, we have a problem. Let's put 13 more miles of that wall up. They're going to finish a certain section of it, and that's good. They need to.
Right.
But the entire wall needs to be built. We need to secure our borders because in Article 5, Section 4 of our Constitution, it states in there that we are to secure and protect our borders. And it is his oath as the man who's calling himself president to do his job. Do your damn job. Don't make Texas suffer. Don't make America suffer, because it's no longer a Texas problem. It's a United States problem, because these people are getting airline tickets and they're flying them everywhere. So just think about that. Texas is the hub. It is where they're coming in. And so one of the other things I want to tap on is this. When our borders were secure, did we still have terrorists trying to cross?
Sure.
And they tried to bomb some of our most important areas of our country. They're wide open right now. You and I can go down there and jump on an inflatable raft. We can paddle from their side to our side. We can sneak across. So I'm going to give stats about 3 months ago. Our Border Patrol chief stood up and he made a comment that we have amazing technology out there, and we do. And he is 100% on when he says this. But that technology can sense through thermal detection, right? It can sense your body heat. 35,000 people were detected but not captured. And that's how busy our Border Patrol is. That data is almost a month old now. That was back then a month ago. 2,000% more of them are sexual offenders. The amount of criminals from other countries that have criminal records for murder. Their country doesn't want them, but they're in Texas now. They have come through and they've been processed, and our Border Patrol agents were able to determine that they had a record. So once they're processed, they get a court date, and they have to report to ICE. But conversations I've had with a lot of people is, do you really think they're going to be urgently running to get there?
Absolutely
If they try
not.
to, they're not. They're not. So my heart goes out to every single family that has crossed this border thinking they were going to find freedom. And they're in a stash house right now calling all their family. They're really wanting freedom. And they deserve to have it, but they need to have it the right way. But I do want people to know there are lots of folks that are coming over here that don't want to be here. And they're being held for ransom. And they're being used as a distraction. Because if we're using them to cross our borders, it keeps our agent busy. Our local sheriff's departments are getting flooded with phone calls. And those, Pastor Rick, I love you, man. I'm getting texts too over here. I want you to know this. This is a God-fearing man, and he knows that he is on my heart right now. And he wanted to let me know that we are on fire over here, James, and we are spreading it through.
That's awesome. Is that Rick?
I love this.
Rick Jimenez?
That's him.
Yep, I've been seeing his post coming all evening. So he's on it with us.
So say his name again.
Rick Jimenez.
So Rick Jimenez is a new pastor in Fort Worth, Texas, and he has planted a church. And I'm going to tell you guys, he is a man of God. He has the light of God in him. When you see him, you find him, and you will need to go to his church, because I'm going to tell you, it's going to be amazing. We need more people like him. And I'm going to tell you something. He's a patriot, and he loves America, and he stands with me.
And Rick,
and I want to shout, most people are going to know this guy, Pastor Greg Locke from Global Vision Bible Church. I got a chance to pray with him, and he'll be praying until the lights go out. And he's going to be telling everybody how he feels about these things. And you need to follow him as well, because he is a man of God. He preaches with conviction, and he'll give his shirt off his back and his chairs off his floor. And he actually said that in his last sermon. Good people that I know, and God has surrounded me with them. And James, he brought you into my life, and I'm grateful for that.
brought us together.
So
Amen.
he brought us together. So we already know these folks are coming across. They're being treated like criminals. We've got hijackings taking place. We got farms and ranchers that can't sleep in their own beds. People are afraid to let their kids play in the street. Children shouldn't have to have fear. We should be able to let them go out and kick a ball in the front yard. But right now, people are afraid as a kid gets too far from the house and they can't supervise them. That freedom is gone.
We shouldn't be scared as Americans in our own country.
Absolutely not.
And you know, it's got to be us first. If we don't have a sovereign nation, we're lost. And a lot of people don't realize that. Maybe they do, maybe a lot do, but the Roman Empire, for one, and all empires that have fallen, one of the major things for the fall of those empires was unchecked immigration.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what's happening here.
Absolutely. You know, if you think back when Saddam Hussein was running his country, right? Do you remember when that happened? They went and they found a big monument that looked like him. They pulled it to the ground.
Right.
His country was flooded with people that were angry. And of course, that's a little bit different situation, right? Because he was He was a terrorist. He was hurting people. But in that situation, all those people came together and they fought for what was right. They fought for him to be out of there. That's a little bit of a different scenario, right?
Right.
So people know this. We are the lions of America. And we need to come together and stand together. You guys have probably seen the picture that goes around of all the fish in the school, right?
Yep.
But when they all come together, the predator will leave them alone. They outnumber the predator. Well, I guarantee you, if we line up like lions, we will outnumber the predator. Because who we are not just a small people. Our voices are big. And just like I'm doing right now, I'm deciding to be a voice for the state of Texas and a voice for the United States of America. And I'm doing this because I care about each and every one of you and your family and your children. And we deserve the freedom. We deserve for our Constitution to be recognized as a document that was created by men that weren't wimps. These men took the time to say, hey, that these hold on here. So I just got a message in here, and it's talking about fentanyl creams, and these creams are being used and they're put on door handles and stuff like that. Wow. They rub them. So what she's telling me, this is a drug counselor. So let's say you and I, we don't want anything to do with fentanyl, but they're rubbing this cream on places, and then you come in contact with it. Guess what? Now you have the drug in your system.
It will kill you.
It'll kill you.
I don't know somebody was ranting on YouTube about fentanyl and that it was being overblown or whatever, and saying that it was during the George Floyd thing, and how do they know that he had whatever amount in his system? So
sure.
The amount of fentanyl that it takes to, let's say it's picograms or nanograms, was
sure.
2. I don't remember the exact measurement, but the number was 2. The equivalent amount of grams, nano, pico, whatever grams of heroin to kill you was 200.
Sure.
It's 100 times more powerful than heroin.
Sure.
And if
so let's talk.
Yeah.
What if that stuff got into areas that we as a population use often?
It's death.
And nobody's doing a damn thing about it except for our Border Patrol agents and those people that are risking their lives daily that actually catch it during the time of it's being smuggled. But that's what's been captured. How much of it made it? So transporting these people, I have seen it all. They stole utility trucks, and they'll take the seats out of them, and they'll take the tool bin thing, and they'll redesign it to hold people. They put them in gas trucks. They'll take all the gas out, and they'll get 80 people in there. And here in Texas, I don't know if anybody knows the whole story, but there was a radio call in because they were running out of oxygen. So imagine 80 people in a tanker, and that tanker was parked somewhere, and the driver ran off, and those people were left in there, and they were all screaming and upset because they couldn't get out, and they're in a tanker, and that was their way to come across. I don't know if they ever found those people. Here in Texas, we travel with hay, right?
Right.
Just recently, they found a trailer that was long, probably like a 20-something foot trailer, and it had square hay bales down the side. It had square hay bales in the front, square hay bales in the back. That's really hard to say fast over and over. In the middle, they put a tarp in the middle, and that's where these guys were hanging out. And of course, it looked a little concerning. Sure enough, our agents chased them down, and then they open it up, and there's pictures of these guys laying in the hay bales. They have tried every single thing: car trunks, pickup truck beds. If you've seen the pickup truck beds, they'll hold like a piece of cardboard like this. They'll pull them over on the side of the road, and everybody knows the term bailout now. Bailout is a common term in the Texas grammar now. So if you hear the term bailout, that means a bunch of illegal immigrants jump out of the back of the bed like ants in a mound, and they run all over the place, causing destruction everywhere they go. And if they steal a vehicle, they will drive through any town at the highest rate of speed. And if they hit somebody, oh, well, they don't care. And our agents have to risk their lives to catch them, and a lot of them. I know we went off on a tangent on that.
No,
but
that's all right, man. Listen, let's wrap it up for tonight. You know what? We can do this whenever you want. It doesn't have to be a Thursday night. we can pick any other night and talk for a couple hours. And
why don't we just do until this thing's over? Let's do like a border, like maybe every couple of weeks. Just do a border crisis update until we get real answers. But I do want to say this for everybody that's listening, that I do care about Governor Abbott. I do. And I want him to know, if he sees this, that us in Texas know that he has the power to declare a state of emergency for every single county in this state. So if I were to take a piece of paper, right, and I were to light it on fire in the bottom, right, it's going to start burning. How long is it going to take for it to burn till it's hurting my fingers? You know what I mean?
Right.
Right now, Texas state's like that. All these counties down below are being hit so hard and so drastic that it's now coming into our cities. And I missed a big point, and I do want to wrap this up, is a semi-truck, they come across northern San Antonio, and they bailed out in town now. And so now we're getting hijackings in the middle of our cities. So it's not just on the border no more. It's coming into the bigger towns too. But I wanted you guys to know I do care about Abbott and some of the things that he is doing good. He's passing around a form, which you guys can find it on Warriors for Ranchers at Facebook. That form needs to be filled out in detail. So if your fence has been torn down, put how much it costs for you to repair it. How many hours did that take? Did they steal your car? What damages do you have on your property? Did they break your windows? Did they break your doors? Whatever it is, put it on that form. If it's not listed on the front, type another page, write it on the back. You're going to email that to warriorsforranchers@gmail.com. I will get those to the right people, and that's warriorsforranchers@gmail.com, and I will get that form to the right people. So that form is being looked at. It's kind of like him taking an overall audit of how much damage has happened to Texas. And rumor has it he is going to try to provide state level, if not national level, crisis relief to our farmers and ranchers. And on May 22nd, there will be a border crisis meeting held in Brackettville, Texas. And I will be speaking. Bianca Gracias will be speaking. We have George Rodriguez from El Conservador will be there. Jason Jones from Newsmax. We will have a lot of amazing minds. Kelly Perry will be there. If you want to hear and get the latest news about what's happening in your area, go to the Border Crisis Rally. You'll find the event posted in Warriors for Ranchers. Be there, and you can meet us, and you can see what we're talking about. Let us help you make change. If you're one of those folks who has a ranch that's been torn up and you have damages and you need help, find Warriors for Ranchers on Facebook and allow us the opportunity to bless your family and give you some crisis relief.
Wow, good stuff, man. Mike, I really appreciate you coming on tonight. I'm glad we got connected. Obviously, it was not a coincidence.
No, sir, it wasn't.
Absolutely.
Divine appointment, I like to call it.
Absolutely.
Jesus Christ brought you into my life.
Amen, man. Hey, we'll do it. We'll do an update in a couple weeks. But I'm glad that we could get this out there. Everybody online that's been commenting, April's been commenting over and over. Wade and Rick and Art and Tim Pelter, my boy. I forget who. I mean, just all kinds of people have been. Ventas Deals. I don't know who they are. Loretta. I mean, all kinds of people commenting tonight. So it's been awesome. So I know.
They're saying what they're talking about here.
Jenny. All kinds of people tonight. So we appreciate it. Well, it's also on YouTube if you want to take it and share it. If you look up Play Harder Radio, we're live on YouTube right now as well. So it'll be there as well. So thank you again. We'll wrap it up for tonight, but we'll check back in a couple weeks, and I'm sure you and I will talk a lot in between now and then, so that I can stay on top.
Annie, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you for introducing me to this man. I really appreciate it.
Right on, man. Hey, already love you, brother. So keep doing what you're doing, and we will talk to you soon.
All right. God bless you, James.
Likewise. Thanks, my man.
I'm doing a podcast right now. I'm going to be telling everybody about Play Harder Radio.
Thank you. We'll get it out there. We'll get the word out.
All right. Sure.
All right. Thanks, Mike.
Love you, and God bless you. God bless Texas, and God bless the United States of America.
We got your back here in Florida, man. All right.
Well, I might come to Tampa.
Yeah, I think I'm going to be in Tampa. So.
All right. Cool.
All right.
Everything's lining up. I'll be there. We need
All
to
right.
have lunch.
Sounds
All right.
perfect. Have a great night.
You bet.
All right. That was Mike Miller with Warriors for Ranchers. And that's going to wrap it up for this week on Play Harder Radio. Todd, thank you for hanging out behind the board there for so long. And we'll see you next week on Play Harder Radio.
Hey, before I take off, I love you, brother.
Hey, he said he loves you.
You got the stream still going?